My family migrated from a village in North America to California about 80 years ago. My father used to tell me about his family back in the village, but neither I nor my father had visited the village for the longest time. He used to tell me that there were not more than 20 small houses in the village, and the forest all around it. But 5 years ago, in 2015, after much effort, my wife Anna got pregnant, and the doctor advised us to take her to a clean environment for her good health. She conceived after a long time of effort and treatment, so I didn't want her to go through a loss after all that. Initially, I thought of a trip to some island or beach, just somewhere out of the city, but while talking to my father, he suggested that we should visit our village. We all thought that we would find a clean environment in our village, so we decided to go there in North America. None of us knew that this decision would be the worst decision of our lives, and it would ruin us to the ground. We were unaware of the sinister tragedy waiting for us in the village. Anyhow, after a very long journey, we finally reached the village at night. The village looked very beautiful under the moonlight, and my father kept on talking about how much the village had advanced. It was the first time since my mother's death, 2 years back, that my father had left the house for some outing. There was complete silence there, which felt very peaceful at first. There was no other place that could make Anna this happy, but she didn't know that happiness was only for a few hours. Father took us to the village house, and he was happy to see it. We knocked at the door, and an old relative named David, who was living there alone, opened the door for us. He didn't recognize us, but when Dad introduced us, he let us in. He was a strange-looking person who seemed to hide something from us. We got inside the house, and David took Anna and Dad to the lounge. I went back to the car with David to get the luggage. But as I returned to the room with the luggage, I saw that Dad was unconscious on the sofa, and his face had turned pale. Anna was worried, and I couldn't understand what had suddenly happened to Dad. David quickly told me to take Dad to the hospital. The hospital was far from the village in the city, and in that condition, I didn't want to leave Anna alone, and her condition was not fit for traveling either. She showed courage and told me to take Dad to the hospital. She told me to take David along as I couldn't drive, and take care of Dad at the same time. We took Dad to the car and went to the hospital. Dad was admitted to the hospital all night. Actually, he had fainted due to low blood pressure, and the doctor advised to take him home after giving him glucose. I tried to call Anna all night, but she didn't pick up the phone. David told me that it must be the signal problem in the village, but I could see that he was acting weird, as if hiding something. After the whole night of treatment, when I went back to the village alone with David and Dad the next afternoon, I saw an extremely strange and scary scene in front of me. I saw that all the lights of the house were off, and Anna was standing in the corner of the room, scratching the wall with her nails. Seeing this, I trembled inside, and as I called her name, she stopped scratching the wall and turned towards me, asking about Dad as if nothing had happened. I slowly approached her, trying to figure out what happened to her, and I felt like it might be the result of stress. So I took Anna to the room and laid her there. I called the doctor and told him everything on the phone, and he also said that it might be due to fatigue and stress, and he asked to take care of the night especially. Nothing happened for the next 2 days, and then one night suddenly I woke up, and Anna was not in the room. I started looking for her throughout the house, but she was nowhere to be found. When I reached the courtyard, I was shocked to see that Anna was standing on the corner of the roof, with her hair all over her head, and she was walking on a very thin strip of wall. She could have fallen from there, so I quickly ran upstairs before she could move, and saw that Anna was nowhere on the roof. I went back downstairs and saw her standing in the corner of the lounge, again scratching her nails on the wall, and she was growling like an animal. I got goosebumps to see this. David came from behind me and told me that Anna was possessed by some dark energy, and she needed to see the priest, not a doctor. I asked him if he knew anything about it, to which he didn't respond and stayed quiet. I could not understand anything, and suddenly Anna began to scream in a heavily devilish. David and I tried to control her, and took her to the village's biggest priest in the middle of the night. I lay her on the bed and waited for the priest to arrive. When we returned to the room after bringing the priest, Anna was not on her bed. We started trying to find her throughout the house, but she was nowhere to be found. When I returned to the bedroom again, I saw that she was sitting on top of the cupboard, with her head in between her knees and growling like an animal again. My heart sank to look at her like that. Then she began scratching the wall with her nails, and raised her head swiftly. Her eyes had turned all black and she was laughing in a devilish male voice. I noticed that she had a big knife in her hand, and before anyone could do anything, Anna started stabbing herself in her stomach with the same knife. She looked at me, started laughing eerily, and said, "I have come to take your child." The priest was also shocked to hear this. She kept laughing while stabbing and no one could stop her. In a few moments, she fell unconscious from above. I went near her and she wasn't moving. I had no other choice but to take her to the hospital immediately, in the middle of the night. The priest was with us the whole time, and told me on the way that this village was cursed by a demonic witch. A long time back, a woman named Abigail got pregnant, but her husband died during that time, and the villagers burned her house, claiming that she was unholy and bearing an unholy child. They burned her house and she was burnt alive along with it. She turned into a witch and haunted the village since then. That was the reason why my grandfather took his family to California, and my father didn't know about this curse. Only a few people lived in the village since then, and no one had been able to conceive a child as well. Whoever got pregnant was killed by the curse of Abigail. Anna died on our way to the hospital, and that night, my life was taken away from me. I still think that if I hadn't gone to that village, maybe she would have been with me today.